And hey, guys, we just want to welcome all of you, our WBRX weekly Zoom call. And these calls are kind of a combination of business development and sometimes presentation. Today, we've got a good call dialed up for you. We had a great event this past Saturday where we launched 3 new products. But 2 of the products that we launched, you're going to hear about today directly from Mr. Joseph Trahan. And Joseph has been involved in many different entrepreneurial activities here in South Texas for many years. Most recently, we were introduced to him. He was helping, actually has formed what's called a Biz Pack to help support legislation and various, political leaders here in the Texas market to advance legislation as it relates to a medical grade cannabis. He also has really kind of led in a lot of different areas. He's led in orchestrating that biz pack that has ourselves as a sponsor, along with research and development folks here. He'll tell you a little bit about that at here in the Houston area over near the university. And these guys are doing a phenomenal job. And also Redbird, who does some development. You guys know about that through Dr. Patel and Dr. Jasani. But, Joseph, if you would, sir, just come on and share a little bit of information about you. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that everyone can, get a good look here at my screen, and then ultimately what we're going to be discussing here today. So with that, sir, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. We're going to go into a little more detail than we did the other day in the product launch about the CIMR layered air defense system. And the proper pronunciation of the word is CIMR, C-I-M-R. I used to call it CIMR. It actually kind of hurt the feelings of the patent holder developer of the technology. And so I changed my Texas Hick pronunciation of it, which CIMR, to me, it's the way it looked like the Spanish word C, which means yes, C-I, if you took Spanish. And he straightened me out on it, and I don't make that mistake anymore. But the continual infectious microbial reduction, that's an acronym, CIMR, continuous infectious microbial reduction. This is the process that this technology kicks off once you plug it in, it starts producing H2O2 air gas. It just continually reduces the microbial, the microbes in the air, the pathogens mainly in the air. Let's see, here we go. The technology, again, just to reiterate, started development on it 15 years ago with the Department of Army, Corps of Engineers, and the Air Force. The problem was all of the officers' barracks 15 years ago were having, that the government owned, were having mold problems because they were so old. And they wanted to find a way to get that under control. This was probably generated 25 years ago, right? You know how slow the government is at working on something. And they wanted to find a solution for it other than, stripping everything down, washing it with chlorine bleach. And in the process, they realized that they had a bioterror defense technology that they had really developed when Alton and team under that military, I think they had a grant originally working with Lamar University. When they first invented the technology, they realized we have an anti-bioterror technology that'll stop any pathogen. And so they continued to refine it and develop. And today, the technologies that we're working with here at Wellness Biosciences are what we call Generation 7 of the technology. It is truly a deadly weapon against pathogens. You know, in the world of microbes, I'll do it like this. The world of microbes is gigantic. And then inside of it, right, you've got the pathogens. And inside of the pathogen category, you've got bacteria, virus, mold, mildew, and fungi. We got those 5 categories. And those are the 5 categories that cause so much trouble for, well, the great thing about the technology is once it's plugged in and turned on, everything, everyone, every pet, every plant inside of a facility is protected. It fills up the air around you with H2O2. It takes the relative humidity, adds an extra oxygen atom to each individual H2O molecule, 1 extra oxygen atom. So now H2O becomes H2O2, and it just fills up the space, the room around you. This is not a vapor or a mist. It's not heavy at all. It's floating around, individual air molecules. And that's deadly to microbials. All of them seek water. They have to have water. Pathogens especially will, or I guess the way to think of it is they're very aggressive about getting water and to exchange waste to replicate. Pathogens a very aggressive type of microbe. They must have a host. The host can be a people, animals, plants, dirt, root, you know, they must have a host. And they just willingly accept, if you look at that right there on your screen, if you look at that H2O2 molecule, they see the H2O in that molecule chain and they willingly accept it through their cell wall right on inside. And go to the next slide. And when they do, it blows up that cell wall. Now, on larger pathogens, pardon me just a second. Okay, on larger pathogens, the screen messed up again there, Barry. I don't know if you can see what we're looking at.
It's good on our end. I think it's just yours. That call probably disrupted your screen, but we're good here.
Oh, okay, let me try a refresh.
Yeah.
No, it didn't do it. It's giving me a Gartner report, so I'm not sure what slide I'm on the.
Here, let me start over.
Okay.
Let's do stop share. Let me start sharing again.
There we go. On larger pathogens, as I was starting to say, the H2O2 molecule will go in and it may not be able to blow up the cell wall, but what it does is immobilize the nucleus. You know, so there's kind of 2 ways that it reacts. It either the covalent bonding, when that extra oxygen attaches to something in the gut, that release of energy in a covalent bond blows up the cell wall on smaller pathogens. On larger pathogens, 1 H2O2 molecule may not blow up the cell wall. What it does is it stuns the nucleus. Now, I want you to think about what happens when you breathe in a COVID molecule that the nucleus has been immobilized. What do you think your immune system does? It sees it as a free radical. It sees it as an invader. It immediately decodes it and builds immunity around it, and it cannot even react. What is an immunization? I'm going to ask you this question. When you get immunized, what they're giving you is a weakened version of the virus, bacteria, mold, mildew, pathogen, whatever that is that you're receiving the immunization for. That is exactly what they're finding. I mean, this is real time, 6 weeks ago, confirmed in 3 labs, data that I'm giving you right now. They're finding that the 1 H2O2 has hit one of these pathogens that it goes in your body builds its own immune system. So what they're talking, immunity to it. So what they're talking about is real-time dynamic immunity building. That's what this H2O2 air gas is proving out to do. I think you can go ahead and hit the picture, I think, or go on to the next, there we go. The photocatalytic process of the CIMR device itself. If you've got a CIMR device, you've looked in there, you've seen that glowing light, kind of a blue, green, maybe blue mainly, glowing light. And it has kind of a honeycomb looking grid that the light is shining through. You never want to look directly into the bulb. Uh, and most of the time we position it so that you cannot look directly through that grid into the bulb. You know, it's basically the heat of the sun. You don't want to look at that and burn your retina. But what happens is that photocatalytic process is that destabilizes the natural humidity, you know, natural water in the air, destabilize it so it'll accept that extra oxygen atom, and then just pumps it right on out. And it does this 3 million times a second or 9 million times a second, depending on how many CIMR cells are in the device, okay? And that's how it pumps and gets rooms full of hydrogen peroxide air gas. Does that kind of cover that for you? Let's see. There we go. This is a very important chart. And you'll see this chart is a pyramid going down, upside down, with the same information, just, you know, an upside, a typical pyramid shape. And you'll see it with like a rainbow effect of colors from least effective to most effective. And so, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, most effective to least effective. So it's showing you what the most effective thing to do. The most effective thing you can possibly do is elimination of whatever the threat might be. The problem is when you're dealing with pathogens, they're so small. You really got to get your head kind of wrapped around it. They're so small that almost any mask that you would wear or breathe through, almost, even the multiple weaves of fiber, these pathogens are so small, it's like dropping a football through the open roof of the Texans stadium out of a helicopter because they're so small. Have you guys studied the sizes of the pathogens and the sizes of the weave of these masks that people are wearing? That's why if you look down at the bottom there of this, it says PPE is the least effective. There are mask systems that are effective against pathogens, but they're so difficult to breathe in. You really need the ones that have their additional own tank and air supply. So it's kind of a misnomer. When the public really gets educated on this, they're going to be very mad about being lied to. But right in the middle of this pyramid, there's a thing that says engineering controls. In between engineering controls and elimination is substitution. Engineering controls would be something like, we change the way that people enter a building or a home. We put them into a hallway that's super treated with H2O2, as an example. When you walk into one of the buildings that we treat, that lobby of the building from the moment you walk in is super treated with H2O2. You're bathed in it from the time you walk in, such that when you've been in there taking 7 steps and 3 breaths, and by the time you get to the elevator, you're pretty sanitized. 20 seconds into being in that building, it's really almost impossible for you to shed off anything that could be contagious to someone, because the H2O2 is just bombarding all of that, and any pathogen you may have on you, as you walk into it. Well, that's all done at the engineering controls level and then substitution level. we're substituting the relative humidity, a portion of it, with H2O2. And what that does is it seeks and destroys the pathogens like we talked about in the last slide, and that eliminates. This slide right here, this picture right here, when you hear from General of the Air Force Bioterror Unit, P.K. Carlton, and he talks about H2O2 air gas being the most effective, 80 to 100 times more effective than any other known technology, this slide represents more than anything else his statement on the matter. Sometimes he's a little hard to follow because he's so precise and technical, but this is what he's talking about. I think we're ready for the next slide. And you can just open them all up there. Yeah. The benefits of the technology are manifold. Well, I think that this slide and ones after, I think we name off a few of them, but when you give in a nutshell, the theory behind all of this is if you give your immune system time to recover from all of the attacks it's under all the time, then it can really do its amazing job that it's designed to do. One of the reasons Wellness Biosciences is in business in the CBD pharma grade product business, you heard it came out of Dr. Patel's mouth the other day, is, we want to create better health, less stress. Stress harms the body. The immune system can't do its job when you're under stress. This is another technology or technique that's being used to create that balance. It doesn't just create a sense of well-being, it actually gives you the ability to breathe at night. I love the stories that people tell us about the technology. They get it, they put it in their bedroom or the area that they're sleeping in, and they notice within a few days, I'm not waking up with my sinuses irritated in the morning. I'm not waking up with, these things, because many times when we're asleep, we don't realize that there's something violating our nasal passages and irritating them, making them swell, might make us snore. We might be waking up several times wrestling, turning over here and there. So we don't get the REM sleep that we need, so our immune system can't do its job. Everybody follow that? Everybody good with that? If you look at here we go, next slide, yeah. This is very important. The technology is a disruptor to the natural contagion pattern. Whether we on this call believe that COVID was an accidental natural outbreak, or we believe that it was bioterror, I can tell you what the military thinks. They think it was bioterror, and they think there will be a lot more of it. Not necessarily with viruses. They'll probably move on to fungi, because that's the thing that humans have the least amount of experience with in their immune systems. But if you can break the cycle, it just cannot be as effective. It can't be as damaging. The way to break the cycle is to have CIMR technology in every school, public building, courthouse, state offices, everywhere people congregate, retail, homes. If you get it in all these places, you're giving your immune system time to recover. It doesn't mean we're not going to come and encounter with these things, because they're going to be out there. But we have a much stronger immune system that's not being bombarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're giving our immune system time to recover. That's the thing about the immune system, is if you just let it have the time to recover, it will do an amazing job of building defenses against these things that violate our health. If you read through this wheel from infectious microbe going around right to left clockwise, infectious microbe, the pathogen source, how it spreads, how it's passed, how it is received into the body to cause infection, and then the highest risk people. Anywhere that you can break up this spread, cross contamination, you can break it apart so that it never can become a contagion. A contagion is always an evolution, a morphing of the original pathogen. Sometimes they get stronger, but most of the time they get weaker. And the reason they get weaker is because the purpose of the pathogen is to find a host to live and replicate. And if they kill off all their hosts, it's over. So most of the time pathogens come on strong, our immune systems aren't ready for them. It kills off a certain portion of people, animals, plants, whatever, wildlife. And then they slowly get weaker unless we as humans are, or there's some other conditions that exist that are causing them to try to survive and be stronger to survive. And they've proven that that is what's going on with the flesh-eating bacteria that are found in the coastal waters because of the runoff of all the agriculture, the farm animals are receiving tremendous amounts of antibiotics, and they're giving these animals antibiotics, and it rolls down through our creeks and river systems down to our coast, gets caught in our natural estuaries, and those bacteria have been bombarded with antibiotics, right? So they do everything they can to survive, get stronger, and they get so much stronger that they actually become aggressive where they eat flesh. That's where that comes from. That's what they've learned, that's what that is. And so we're trying to get on top of that. But back to breaking the chain of infection, I was describing that so that now that they know that they go back to the farms and they know that we've got to quit giving all these animals, all these antibiotics prophylactically to try to keep them from getting a problem. We need to be smarter about how we handle it. Dairy farms are starting to use CIMR technology as an example. Dairy farms, you got all these cows in close quarters, and you have electric milking machines. Bacteria, if they're not cleaned up, bacteria is passed from one to the next to the next to the next. And the only way that they knew how to treat it was just open it up and blow air through there and hope for the best and give them a whole lot of antibiotics. And what they found out was that made the bacteria stronger because they had to fight harder to live. Okay. Now they're learning, get CIMR air in there, get them CIMR protected, let them willingly take in that hydrogen peroxide molecule, and you start eliminating the bacteria, right? Instead of making them stronger. The antibiotics just weren't doing the trick. Plus, they're bad for humans. I mean, it's bad for our growing children to be drinking milk with all these things in it. So CIMR is being used all over the place in the food cycle, and the same technology in CIMR that to treat the air to make it safe for us in our homes, in our businesses, retail, where we shop, where we live and go with our families and friends. That same theory, that same physics is being used in the area of soil. And when you get to meet Alton Holt, the inventor patent holder, even in the area of soil, we have things that are destroying our plants. And this technology for soil exists to remediate soil and make it healthy so we have healthier plants, better crops, less disease. Okay, we're ready for the next one. Do we have proof of this technology working? We have so much data on this, it's overwhelming. The problem is you have to be a scientist if you really want to read it and process all of it. So what we do is we summarize a lot of it. And the technology, I said earlier, we're on generation 7, we're moving to generation 8 of the technology. That technology is scheduled to go up on space station for lab testing up there and microgravity. But the generation 7 technology is, as it's progressed through the different generations, the same types of extensive testing was done and replicated in multiple universities, multiple CDC labs. The Air Force is really um, the bioterror defense research organization for the entire military. They have the most extensive labs. Maxwell and Lackland are the two where they have big CDC labs. There are some other ones that I don't know where they're actually located. I don't think they want anybody to know where they're located. Um, but we have plenty of data, and what we're wanting to do is to take some of these important uh, data sets, summarize them with a wellness biosciences kind of marketing kit that you can get to online, so we can always update it with more as new things come out, because we get new data in every week, and we have to decide, you know, how we want to disseminate it. I think we're ready for the next. Again, we're talking about the different types of diseases back on that other slide. Barry, if you can go back one. We're talking about all the different types of things that's been tested on. If you've been alive on the planet, you know, for 30, 40, or 50 years, you probably recognize some of these things written up here on this as causing huge problems. I mean, just the black mold, right? Just that black mold, that mildew. Look at what it has done to people's lungs. It's made people sick for 20 years, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong because they were trying to treat the secondary infections from the black mold, not going to the source of it. Streptococcus has been around since I was a kid. The biggest problem they had with that, when babies were born, if their mother had it, or if it was in the air at the time they were born and they took their first breath out of the womb, they'd get it immediately, you know, as an example. And that they over treated it with penicillin to the point where it could defeat penicillin, it could defeat amoxicillin. They had a hard time treating it. So all these things have been, you know, around all the time. It's just normal part of organic life. What they're finding out about the CIMR technology is, as long as we've got CIMR air, these things stay in check. They don't go away 100%. They stay in check. They don't take over. They don't fully manifest and do the damage to the quality of human life that they can do. That's the beauty of the CIMR technology. I think we're ready for the next one. Just a few logos. I mean, I think we've got pages and pages and pages of logos in universities, different organizations that have proven out technology, that use the technology. And what's so funny about it is other countries, especially the kingdoms over in the Middle East, their minister of health talks to all the doctors, talks to the research organizations. And when they make the decision to go to CIMR protect their country, their hotels, their government buildings, their palaces, their collections of mega yachts, they don't go a little bit here and there. They do everyone, everywhere, the whole country. And like if you go to Qatar, what they're putting it over there, they're putting CIMR technology in their air conditioned sidewalks on their streets. They're CIMR protecting entire cities by blowing CIMR air up from the street. You know, has anybody been to Qatar? You've seen they've got the air conditioned sidewalks through the financial corridors and through the shopping district. Yeah, so they're protecting their entire mass of citizens. Okay, we're ready for the next slide. This is one of my favorite handy little charts with anybody that, I mean, we've got a chart like this that's, you know, 30 columns across and 40 columns down of very specific types of technologies to try to manage, control, and otherwise, you know, destroy the the threats of these pathogens. But it's so complex, and there's so much on it, nobody can digest it. I'm comfortable with it. Alton, of course, is very comfortable with it, as are the generals and things we deal with over there. But what I found is it's so much better if I just get it down to 4 categories and let you take a look at those 4 categories: water, H2O2, O3, which is ozone, or ultraviolet light. Those are basically the 4 categories. That's how you you clean, wash, or disinfect a lot of things, right? And so if you look across those five simple columns there, what the common name is danger to humans and pets, and compare all of them, it's an absolute no-brainer that H2O2 produced by CIMR is hands down the way to go. Nothing can stand against it. The other technologies cannot perform at its level, and the other technologies are potentially deadly to human. If I mean, they ozone itself is a sunburn to your lungs if you take 3 or 4 breaths of it above 0.04. If anybody's been in a high ozone, if they've experienced a high ozone environment, they've had bronchial issues. There's no question about it. The problem with O3 ozone is even at low levels, it kills the good microbes that we need around us. Now that's a huge mistake. H2O2 does not seem to log any noticeable kills on, remember earlier when I said, here we've got the world of microbials and now we got the pathogens, bacteria, virus, mold, mildew, fungi inside of that, right? Remember this whole world of microbes? You do not want to kill all of them, but O3 kills them. But what I'm saying is they've noticed that hydrogen peroxide uric acid doesn't seem to log the kills in the rest of the world of microbials that aren't dangerous for us. And so that leaves our planet's natural balance intact. You know, we're not working against the natural order when you're dealing with H2O2. So that's the takeaway from this slide is the green item H2O2 all the way to the right does not seem to log noticeable kill rates on good microbes. Okay, next slide. I think I was just talking about that. I'd kind of spoke to this already. I think that we've covered it. Yeah. The technology in action it's so simple, it's hard to believe that it's working. And this is always the question. I got this question this morning, and it was from a scientist that was doing an evaluation for a very large, distinguished private school that they're looking at a big commercial installation, and they said, well, once you install all of this equipment, how will we know that it's working? And I just let them get it out for a second, and I said, I know that you know the answer to that because you're a physicist. If that light is on, it's working. And you can buy equipment from us to monitor air quality, monitor, the pathogens in the air to prove that it's working if you want. But the smart choice is to do what the military does and only put air quality monitoring equipment in places that are of strategic interest. If the light is on, the equipment is doing its job. It's industrial. I mean, it's a military grade equipment that's made to be that simple. If the light's on, it works, But but people that have concern, if they want to buy the air quality monitoring equipment, we can help them to get that. Okay. I think this next slide. Yeah, this is just a very small portion. I wanted to be sure that everybody, in the WBRX world could see, look at all of the different armed forces groups and NASA, ourselves, Space Force, when they have equipment, will have it as well because they'll be borrowing it from NASA. But a few things that are important is it's all 100% made in the United States. The technology was invented right here in the United States in Texas. The patent holder is from Texas. And so it's about as American made as you can be. It's a energy, it's got an Energy Star rating, which I think I mentioned, Barry, correct me if I didn't do it, but because you make the air slightly more dense whenever you make H2O2 air gas at the proper level, there is a feeling that the air temperature magnifies slightly. So if you're trying to keep a room, if it's hot outside and you're trying to keep a room cool, the thing that we notice is people report to us they can keep it a degree or two warmer because there's more density in the air, right? It's a simple little thing, and it works just the opposite if you're trying to keep the room inside warmer because it's cold outside. I mean, but it's a simple little thing, but people notice that. And so it, believe it or not, it got an Energy Star rating because of that. Okay. I think we're
just admitting some people. Sean was not there, so let me get these folks in. Now let me share again. I'm sorry. Good.
okay. Efficacy studies, there, like I said, there are many of them. And what I think that would be the best way to do this, Barry, is for us to take a look at them. I'll be in your office. We'll take a look. We'll hand select which ones we want to make available that we think are pertinent for the sale of the CIMR 2000 and CIMR 414. And then we'll have the whole, you know,
Sure.
3-inch thick binder of them available for more extensive referral clients or something like that if we need them. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. Yep.
I talk a lot about this gentleman. It's been an honor to get to be around him, and he is so knowledgeable. He basically invented bioterror defense for the United States military. P.K. Carlton, he actually retired 16 months ago, I think. I'm going to get the exact date on it. He actually retired from the military, went through all of his cancer treatment, and even while he was going through that misery, never missed a beat, was on every call that we needed him on, and was one of our biggest champions. And we, you know, still to this day, he's on our board. He's there's nobody that knows more about how to defeat a pathogen than this guy. And I think if we are able to involve him in the roundtable that we've talked about with the other folks on bioterror defense and the inventor of the technology in a discussion that would be helpful to WBRX brand partners, I think that you guys are going to be equally impressed. I think we're ready for the next slide. Yeah, there's that's kind of hard to see because it's a real small font. But those are some big names, big military installations. It's the number of buildings per installation that have technology. You can see how long some of them have been using the technology. You know, some of them have been using the technology since 2007 when it was in its infancy, and it's just moved on up. You know, in fact, some of the facilities, they have the technology in it, and we have to produce the Generation 3 light kit for their installation until they're ready to move on up. And probably a lot of them will switch to Generation 8 as we finish up all that testing on it. I think that's why there's been so much pressure. But just this little sniglet here, there's over 4,400 buildings right there, and just a driving distance from Houston. That gives you any idea. There's a few more there. References we've here in the Houston, Texas area. We've got multiple buildings we can take you to, but probably the premier property is David Thomas owns this building. The gentleman that owns the Rolling Stones. This is a first-class property with a lot of wealthy Houstonians in it, and he wanted to protect it so that none of them would have to worry about cross-contamination in the building. So they used it as a marketing. This is what we're seeing commercial realtors, people that own properties, they want to distinguish themselves. They want to attract people back to work, back to the buildings. They don't want to, they don't want to lose all of their tenants. I mean, this particular building, what did we find out the other day, Barry? It was 69% occupied,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think. And he's like, I'm going to spend the money and get this technology in here, and we're going to advertise on it. And that's exactly what they did. And it's an impressive, elegant solution for that building. Barry might, if you'd like to, you might talk about your experience when you walked in, what it was like, what you saw, how you felt as you went in the building, how the building is labeled with all the different things to let people know, that give them peace and comfort.
Yeah, it was very impressive because as this is a more commercial size application for CIMR, and we are really focused here on the currently the 2000 and the 414, which is for homes and areas that cover 2,000 square feet. And of course, the CIMR 414 is 15, 16,000 square feet. But you have an entire building here, and what they did is they applied the commercial units right at the the air conditioning units, so that as the air was taken in, it expelled it on all the floors. And as you enter into the lobby, they had it located in every angle that you possibly could. So the moment you walked in, you had this CIMR air right on you. So to kill the pathogens and all the bacteria and viruses that you would either enter in or leave the building. But as you're in the building, you're just swamped with this CIMR technology. It was really amazing. So.
The other part about that, Barry, is uh, what's happening right now as we're talking about it is there's legislation. The CARES Act in Washington, D.C. has been expanded to spend money in all states in the area of public education and in education from grade school on about infectious disease control, and a tremendous amount of money is coming in for schools and incentives for businesses to put some new air sanitizing equipment in. FEMA has a rating for our technology. If an area is declared a disaster, there are FEMA dollars that pay for CIMR equipment.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing with Lloyd's of London right now, and we've been slowly, building up the business case for Lloyd's of London to take to their actuarials over in the UK. But we're working with Macaulay there that was trained by Mr. Lloyd himself about what is the implication to insurance underwriters for large group policies for health insurance if they've got CIMR technology in the home, they've got CIMR technology in the office. What's the implication? Because it should be a lot healthier workforce and healthier kids if they've got CIMR protection at school. And so that would change the way policies are administered and written because of the risk factor. It's just financial deal for them. But I've been impressed that they've been very open to it. This tells you some of the technical specs about the 2000. Its power consumption is very, very small. You've got 5 fan speeds on this piece of equipment. When you plug in the unit and you push the button on the left, the first thing that you want to do is come over to the fan speed and turn it all the way up to high. And on the far right-hand side, on the bottom right, you have a thing that says pure and then plus pure. You want to press that twice and make sure both of the CIMR units are activated, the bulb kits inside the device. And so it'll beep at you to tell you you've done it correctly, and everything's on. But it's pretty simple, 3-year limited warranty. We really don't ask questions. If something goes out, we just replace it. That's our big 414 unit. And if you were in the room this weekend, you got to see those. They have their own fan kit. Those 2 little fan kits move a tremendous amount of air through them, and they're configurable. And These devices actually are put inside of air conditioning units, and I'll explain that. So they have a commercial installation. Um, Sometimes older facilities don't have what's called a variable speed fan in their big HVAC system. You know, their HVAC system can, and on each floor can be as big as the kitchen in your house. I mean, they can be gigantic. You can walk inside of these things. Well, sometimes, and we have all kinds of other equipment, but sometimes the right installation, because they don't have a variable speed fan and those turbines kick on and off, is to put the 414 units directly in there, take the top of the case off, and let it do its job. And that way they're able to get the kind of installation Barry saw when he was over at 5858. They're able to get that same thing where it's recirculating on every floor through all HVAC systems on every floor. So there's lots of different ways to make our technology work in whatever age of air conditioning system they have. So you've got your special WBRX brand partner pricing with a very aggressive special bonus program going on right now. That's an incredible deal that you've done for everybody, Sean and Barry. It really is, to encourage them to, you know, to embrace the technology and get out there quick. The let's see, both is okay. Here we go. I think we've covered everything there, Barry.
Yes, sir. Yes, I want to kind of segue from what you just mentioned, and then we'll open it up to certainly open it up to Q&A here. Guys, we made this available at the WBRX University, and we announced that the CIMR unit will have a retail price associated with it of $3,200, and that will be you know, subject to the discounts and the commissions in the compensation plan. As the 414 unit is a retail cost of 18,250, and that also will be subject to the discounts and the commission structure within the compensation plan. We're excited to be able to work directly with Joseph, worked hard to get the price points that we needed so that we could provide you guys with the unique opportunity of earning significant revenue as you take it directly into the marketplace through the comp plan and get paid residuals and hefty residuals on your organization. With that said, in the pre-launch phase, which is what we are currently in, we are happy and excited to make that available to everybody that is a brand partner at a very low cost on the 2,000 unit. You know, we're able to make that available at $1,899. That's a ridiculously, in fact, to my knowledge, Joseph, I don't think that there's anybody else out there that can get that CIMR unit at that cost. And in addition to that, the 414 unit, you know, we brought that down considerably, and that the actual retail cost, as I mentioned before, is at the you know, is at the 18,250, but the pre-sale, or I would say the pre-sale price for that unit is $12,999.99. And so, again, I don't know that you can get that anywhere else for those prices. And these units are here; they're ready to be shipped out. And we're excited about what's going on. And I'll tell you this as we conclude, but we're going to open up for Q&A first. We're now embarking on, it looks like somewhere around the 17th of September. We have not inked this yet, but we're now looking at an event that will be specifically for CIMR. We're looking at probably here at the Zaza Hotel. We may do it in a different room, but we're going to invite Alton. You can discuss, you know, a little bit of detail with regard to him, the developer of the product, the actual, you know, inventor. And also, I guess you can elaborate, Joseph, some additional brass that comes along with that, right?
Right. Well, Colonel Robert Troy of the U.S. Air Force Bioterror Defense Unit, Colonel Paul Nelson, that trained every general in the United States in the last 15 years in bioterror defense. that reported directly to PK Carlton, Surgeon General PK Carlton. If he is up to it, former General PK Carlton will be available by phone.
Okay.
He's not traveling much. I think he's still recovering, but that's a handful of the I guess dignitaries, top level military brass in the biodefense area, and they really have a different perspective on this than you and I hear on the news. They know that bioterror is real. They've had to encounter it hundreds of times around the world with our troops and keep them safe. They've come back to CIMR and they've said, you know, we've got a unique situation. We got some guys that had an anthrax attack on them over in the Middle East. We don't want them to die. They're special forces, and what can we do to keep them alive? And we on the fly invented, which is now a production technology, on the fly invented a tent system. Nobody could get near them. You know, they had anthrax, and the caregivers really didn't have all the hazmat equipment at the time. So they immediately deployed the CIMR equipment. They made a tent system from their stomach around their head, recirculating all the air through the CIMR devices. Every one of them lived. Got them through it. It was a 3 days of misery, and they started coming out of it. I mean, but there's story after story after story that these military top brass will tell you that they did with this technology that they had an active hand in inventing. And whenever to give you an idea, when we told them that we were almost ready to test some Generation 8 prototype, and we had been scheduled 2 years out because we needed microgravity testing for part of it. We'd been scheduled 2 years out for flight to get to the space station lab. The colonel I was speaking with got on the phone and he said, you can go up in 4 months. And he bumped somebody. That's how serious they are about it.
Yeah.
Very serious about technology.
Well, with that, Joseph, let's if you will, we'll spend the remaining amount of our time for Q&A, guys. If you would like to come on, please unmute yourself. And you know, we've got several of you on the line right now, so if we have any crossover, we'll just try to line up one at a time. But anyway, if anybody has any specific questions with respect to the CIMR unit, please feel free to ask those questions.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Scott.
Yes. I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay, first one, are we an exclusive distributor of this product? Is there anybody else in the U.S. selling it?
Answer is we have exclusivity. WBRX has exclusivity inside the industry of network marketing. In that we've been able to negotiate very favorable price points so that we can pay our brand partners in the compensation plan, and we have exclusivity inside the industry. Now there are other people selling it, and I'll let Joseph speak more specifically to that.
Yeah, so good question. And there are other people selling it, but they're selling into industry, selling to distribution, selling to the large HVAC companies, the Johnson Controls of the world. In the Houston area would be the Letzos, HVAC mechanical contracting firms of the world. They're the certified installers. You see what I'm saying? What this does is help have certified installers for this equipment to go into these large HVAC systems and do installations. So any referral for a commercial deployment that you might have, we've got a mechanism there to help make that happen. Now on these large commercial installs, that's a special kind of an arrangement we have to work, because it's probably going to use a bunch of equipment that's not inside of the available equipment for WBRX at this time.
Okay, appreciate that. And the second question is, and maybe it was just a misunderstanding on my part, I thought this was new to the commercialization process, but I look on the list that you posted of facilities, and I saw that like I don't know if it was Pine Cove Church, but you know, there was a church on there that's had it since 2013. So how long has this been available in the marketplace?
There's a handful, and I mean it, it's probably less than 20 of different types of smaller community buildings where they did testing, where they went through the early generation, generation 2, generation 3. That church in particular had been flooded and had water in it for 2 weeks, 4 feet. And they were testing on that back then to see if they could do mold remediation with the technology. Was it strong enough? And they found out back then the technology wasn't strong enough. They've since then, it got flooded again 2 years ago. So the generation 6 or 7 technology in there, mold remediation, didn't even have to tear out the walls.
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
there's lots
so
of things like that. You'll notice there are lots of little things. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason. There's pattern to it. There's a cannery, right? There's a fish
right,
cannery.
yeah.
They were suffering.
So there was a salmon place and
Yeah, what it
some
was is
beef place in New Jersey or something.
they could not consistently in the warm summer months, they could not consistently pass their health test because the bacteria count would go so high. And it didn't matter what filtration systems they were using, and it didn't matter how cold they kept it. It's just a trick of physics, and it wasn't working anything they were doing. So we tested it out, and with our equipment in there, it's the only cannery we've ever done it in. They passed all through the summer months. You almost cannot smell fish in a cannery because it turns out, and this you know this, I know you know this, but some others might not. Odor has mass, and most of the smells that we smell that we don't like of decaying plant matter, organic matter, things like that. That is actually the bacteria, the microbes eating that and expelling gas. That's what the smells are that we can't stand, you know. And because the CIMR technology is in there seeking and destroying and killing these pathogens, these bacteria, virus, mold, mildew, fungi, they're not off gassing. That's called off gassing. They're not off gassing, so you don't have these smells. So that's why that worked really well for the cannery. And that was one big test that we did, and it worked very well. So that's why you see
great.
like a string of things. We tested it out on a set of ambulances and first responders, because the concern was that when first responders go show up, you know, there's no telling what this person might have, and then they're that contagion problem of picking up a person, you got whatever they have, the next patient, you bring to the hospital, you might hit 3 hospitals a night, and then all of a sudden we got a contagion generated by first responders, you know, secondhand infections in a region, and they're having a hard time tracking down, why are we having this outbreak, right? And it all came from one patient zero kind of a situation. We found out if we put them in the ambulances, they don't have cross-contamination. Same thing they found out at Walter Reed and, you know, at Bethesda. If we got the hospital properly protected, there is no cross-contamination, patient to caregiver, patient to patient. Zero, none, not at all. I mean, they've tested this year after year. The union, it's private nurses that work in those hospitals over there, most of them. And the nurses union banded together and demanded for the rest of the hospitals in their union footprint that they have CIMR protection. So those are a few things that I thought you might like to hear about to answer that question more fully.
Yeah, right on. Appreciate you, Joe.
No problem.
Anybody else, guys? I think Sarah is unmuting.
Yes, I did. I've got a number of questions, but how long, going off of what Scott was saying, how long has the Gen 7 been available in the marketplace?
Generation 7's been around a little more than a year, right at about a year. It's,
Okay.
I think we're coming up on a year in February because it was tested out before the product was actually sold in the marketplace. I started selling into the marketplace because it was in military before I could sell it to. I had to get permission. The military allowed them to do. That was in June. Was the first time that we could offer Generation 7 outside of military and outside of what the inventor calls his test bed. Okay, because there are other places around Lamar University, other in that community over there, that he has been testing for years. You know, that's been his test community.
Okay. I'm taking a note. Okay. So I've gotten into WBRX University so that we can see the under marketing tools, the slides that you were just using. Of course, I don't think we can click on those links. I'm wondering if, and that may be a WBRX question as far as making those links accessible, but I would love, and I think Jeff emailed about this, you know, just a 2-page slick that would be a great, I mean, I've got lots of places I want to be able to go in and just kind of capture attention and give the highlights. I'm sure I could copy paste whatever, but is there anything like that available for us, or is that in the works?
Yeah, so we actually, we're in the process of creating, as you just suggested, a 2-page narrative that covers the bullet points that would probably best market to the average person or to people out there. But in addition to that, we are also going to put together, just as we have with our CBD products, for a guide for this in the same exact type of fashion. So it's a nice glossy that that you'll have to take and use for marketing materials.
Well, and my concern at my level, and talking already on Sunday night with my contact at American Airlines, was impressing upon her, you know, I really don't want to share that it's called CIMR or anything. I mean, I need my hook so that I can get to where I need to be able to make that sale, as opposed to somebody else picking up on it and running and, you know, that gets that.
You want market protection for the opportunity. And so let me speak to that. For these larger commercial sales like this, the best thing to do is get it to me in writing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is how you protect yourself. This is who I'm dealing with. Then we can come back. I can find out if there's anyone on the CIMR Scientific team, my company's team, that is dealing with them, right? And the smart thing that we're going to do is we're going to say, maybe we can work together on it, or we're dealing with the board already on this. This person just doesn't know about it. We'll get that out in the open so you don't waste any more time on it.
Okay.
And you move on to your next opportunity. If it's something that you've got a real lock on, we're going to work with you to get that done.
Okay. So, and I appreciate knowing that. And that is easy to keep very simple, and Barry, then, you know, we might get that slick together. But again, I'd love to have something that doesn't disclose so much that somebody just looks up CIMR Scientific Technologies and runs with that. That's kind of where my marketing brain.
If anyone reaches out to our company, where did that come from? And you're telling us, for example, that you generated, we're going to believe that you did, you know. I mean, why would they contact us? You know, I mean, otherwise, you know, but and as you know, everyone here on this call knows, a real sale is not a 1-minute activity and it's over with. There's a lot of work that goes into proper sales, and this is a kind of an engineered sale when it moves into the corporate side of it. Airplanes, a different type of technology that we would use over there. It's not going to be the 2000 or the 414. It'd be some more of the industrial technology we use, even in the military, that we would use for them. And so, you know, that's how we just handle that. And we do a referral for it. And I don't know if Barry's talked about that, but that's the way that that's the right way for us to do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that-
let me speak to that just real quickly. So in the event that somebody does have any any opportunity at the commercial level, we will handle that on a case-by-case basis, and there will be basically a one-time commission. That, of course, is something that we're coordinating through Joseph. There will be a one-time commission that will come to you from WBRX, but that'll be just handled so that we can make sure anybody that does have a larger project can get paid and be managed accordingly. So.
okay,
Yeah, so on these larger commercial, industrial, it's a really an engineered solution. We've got a whole team that gets on these things of different parts of technology inside their environment. We may have to bring in subcontractors to get the thing done. They may have a favorite vendor that we have to train instead of using one that we've already trained. So there's all these factors, that we can't possibly predict. And it's not nearly as simple as, hey, you want to buy a CIMR 2000 or 414? And how can I put you in a CIMR 414 today? I mean, it's not that simple, but still, for helping get that done and ongoing help, you deserve a referral.
okay. I'm going to ask a question Jeff had. Does air conditioning and or some kind of circulation fan have to be on to be effective in a facility or home? And if not, does it help make it more effective if it is?
More effective.
Okay.
The portable, the 414 and 2000 have their own fan kit. It's going to disperse, but you want that CIMR air. You want that H2O2. You want it moving around.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Moving around. This is a weird word to use, but I'll say it like this. It's really like the hot girl at the roller skating rink in 7th grade. There's
What?
She pretends she's the pathogen. There's gonna be a group of boys, and she can take her pick. Okay.
Okay,
I don't know if this illustration helps. I have daughters, so
I feel like it's a Pac-Man thing.
I was wondering where Joseph was going with that. I got a little concerned. I'm glad that turned out okay.
Hi, Susie. Okay.
The Pac-Man,
I think you're right. Okay. All right. The last thing that I think that Jeff had in his, because he had to get off the call. If you operate the unit in a home, I think I know the answer to this, but in a home or business, and the home or business is closed up afterwards, no entry or exit, and the unit is removed and not operate, how does that work? He's talking about remediation, or, like we have rental property. And so it gets turned on for 24, 36 hours and then removed. To me, it seems like, nothing's airtight. So it wouldn't remain.
Yeah. So if he's treating rental property, is he trying to treat it in between tenants, or is he trying to treat
he thought it could be part of the make ready.
Is he trying to treat it in between Airbnb tenants?
No.
He's doing standard leasing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
smart thing for him to do is for you to sell him a CIMR for every tenant that comes in there, and it stays there.
That's what I'm thinking.
And it's their problem. After that, then you've made another sale, another customer, and when he gets another tenant, you get to sell another one. And that's the way to do it, really. That the notion of I'm going to treat it for 3 days and pull it out.
Yeah,
that's
what I thought.
That's not there are remediation companies that will come and do that kind of thing for you. And they'll take your money, but
right.
If anybody that understands microbials knows that you can't bake something in 3 days. They literally bake a room whenever it's been flooded to get rid of, mildew. You can't bake it in 3 days. Mildew is tough. It's a tough little organism. This has to go on for 30 days to have any chance of really killing it. Well, so there's an education cycle that you've got to put your customers through, because they've been conditioned by being lied to by people in the market. It's just a sad fact. If they'll do their research, they'll find out that 30 days is what it takes. So you might as well just make it part of the rental install.
Okay.
I
One last thing. Stony, I see you on, and I just want to say, I hope the fact that you are on means that you took the leap of faith and joined us. That's it.
Yes. Not a leap of faith. It was a smart move.
Good. I'm glad. Okay, I'm done.
I have a question. Is there anything similar to this kind of a unit out on the market right now? Because I've been hearing a little bit about, plug-in units that people can buy that kill COVID. And so do you know of anything that's similar to this that's out there that would be a competitor?
Yeah, Jen, there are hundreds of fans out there blowing that people have renamed, whatever they've named it, the COVID assassin or whatever. They're ripping people off. There are some that have a HEPA filter. That's like throwing a football through the open roof in the Texans stadium. There are some that have a UV light inside of it, right? They went to China, they found the cheapest UV light that they could find, $4, and put it in there, right? And so they've got a fan blowing across a UV light, and they're calling it a COVID killer. It's really not. It really is not at all. Mainly, if you understood that technology, the amount of time that air particles have to be in proximity to the luminescence of the UV bulb for it to actually kill a pathogen, there's no way that the physics of that can work. It takes a cyclone chamber of a UV bulb to be able to do that. None of them have that. The only one I've ever seen is the one that Alton and I invented for an 80,000 square foot military deployment. And so the answer to your question is there's tons of equipment out there. I've even seen equipment that looks very similar to the CIMR 2000. It has that look. It's not, and it has no bulb kit inside of it. It's just a fan. And they're selling these things for $1,000 and getting it because people don't think, can't think, won't think, too lazy to think. So the answer for you is that's part of the education game that we, with WBRX, we have to play with the public, with our customers. We have to get them educated on it. Once they understand that CIMR technology, we've got them. The moment they understand that, there's nothing else that will do. And so I'll have to leave it like that. What do you think? What do you think, Sean or Barry? What do you guys think of that response?
We did everything that we could do to explore what was in the marketplace and what supported the science to determine whether it was an actual killer of the pathogens. And as you just mentioned, everything that we could find just led us to realize that, if you're wanting, ultraviolet light around, or the technology of sucking air in and moving it through an ultraviolet light, you've got pathogens in all areas of your room.
Right.
So logic would lead you to understand that the method with which the CIMR uses it's actually putting this hydrogen peroxide gas along with the oxygen that is multiplied into the air to go kill pathogens. It's almost a reverse concept.
Yeah.
And the fact that this technology has been used by the number of different agencies and military and different facilities, it tells us that where you're looking for bioterrorism, support, and they're using this technology, it makes sense. Now, I will tell you that the technology became extremely popular, as we all can understand, when COVID became real here in the United States. So it's of no surprise, and I don't necessarily personally believe that this form of bioterrorism is finished. That's just my own view. So,
Hey, Joseph, JM.
Yes.
So I want to tell him real quick. When I first started working with Joe and CIMR, I was just like Jen. I was just looking around, I saw this website that said CIMR, and so I'm going to call up and check out, see what they have. And I'm talking to this gentleman, and I'm saying, man, this guy's, wow, he's like Joe or even more. And I said, what's your name, sir? And he said Alton. It was the inventor. I felt so.
The actual developer of the product.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he answers the phone, he talks to you, he's a gentleman. I'm like, man, he was just explaining everything. And I was like, God, this guy, and it was an inventor. He was really nice. It was just funny because, even him, he gets on the phone and explains just like Joe does. So anyway.
I think who did he tell you to call, Tony?
He said, call Joe. I said, who? No, it's not Joe, it's JT. Joe Timberlake.
So to answer the question that was asked, just for clarification purposes, I just want to verify, is there a direct competitor with the technology that we have to CIMR?
Well, because we have all the patents to the CIMR technology, no, there's not. There's an OEM manufacturer that produces our 2000 unit that produces or what kind of white labels their own brand of that out there. We control the market and have hold off agreements with them in different markets. They wanted to come into Texas to sell to the Capitol. We told them no. And we reconfirmed that yesterday in a call with Colonel Troy. So it looks to all be working just fine that way. But there's no other, there can't be by law another technology like CIMR that is not a licensed product. So I would know what it is if we had licensed it to someone.
Okay, great.
Yeah, wouldn't you just share the scientific stuff that we have? If somebody said, well, I've got one, or compare them, that's all you would need to do, right? Just to show them that, what does that unit have? Does it have any kind of scientific base, any studies? So
anyone that comes up with and I hear it all the time, like the Puridyne guys, they've got an ozone creating technology. And do you know how they went and sold their technology? One of their salesmen took the CIMR data and got their customer to go, oh my gosh, this is incredible. We have to have this. And then he gave them a purchase order for a ozone technology. Right? Guess who's in the middle of a big ugly fraud lawsuit? They are, so there's all kinds of people that are out there that are unscrupulous. They're going to try to take advantage of fear in the marketplace, which, this pandemic situation has caused. News media has poured gas on top of it. And so we're going to see some of that out there. But if they're a reasonable thinking human being and we do our job, we'll educate them on H2O2 air gas and the CIMR technology. And they'll be our customer for life and our friend. They might even be a reseller.
Great.
If you really do your job right, they're going to be on your portal signing up.
I love it. Love it, love it. Well, guys, listen, we're going to go ahead and conclude the call for today. I want to say thank you very much, Joseph. We appreciate you and appreciate the information. This will be recorded. We'll probably record and edit just the portion that Joseph offered in the way of information for you to be able to use personally, and to also be able to send out to those people that you're prospecting and getting more information. We are also on Thursday's call. We're asking, and I don't have verification of this, we're asking Alton, the developer of the product, to attend the call on Thursday. As soon as we have verification of that, we will send out a text. Again, kind of put a little pencil mark around the 17th. I think that's the date that Joseph gave us tentatively. We will, as soon as we have verification of that date, we will have a WBRX meeting that will specify specifically before education on the CIMR unit. I think that we're going to invite, I think, one of the colonels and also Alton and try to give you all as much of an opportunity to come to that unit here and to that event here in Houston to get as much education and to get around some of the ins and outs of knowledge that stand behind this. And that will be available to you and your prospects. We just ask that you RSVP so that we can make appropriate accommodations here at the hotel for the meeting size room. Okay. So with that, guys, we're finished. Thank you so much for today. Have a phenomenal rest of your day and week. And we look forward to those of you that can make it to our meeting here in the corporate office tomorrow. Please come. We're going to have a good group. And then, of course, on Thursday, we hope to see you. And then we'll conclude the week, this week anyway, on Saturday with another WBRX compensation plan call. All right. With that, thank you so much. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Joseph.